And welcome back to the ESL One T-Mobile Expert Desk, where we were actually dancing before we came back. You won't believe me, but we were dancing. We're getting into the mood with the
Seb had some
music.
great moves.
He had some great moves. Talking of great moves, I was trying to do a seg, but I can't now because there weren't really many great moves from Na'Vi in that last game.
I don't know. I think the lineup had potential, and I liked how they secured Roche the first 2 times, even with Vici trying to contest it. But ultimately,
that was pretty much the only defining point of their lineup, though.
Yeah,
I mean, the ability to secure.
You guys were very clear about the fact that they had to be very aggressive. They had to be super good in the early game, and they weren't necessarily really good in the early game. There was flashes there, but
there was so much emphasis on taking down Roche that when they even out in the laning stage, that's all right, but you need to push your advantage and take down those towers when you have Enchantress and Undying, and really just force the issue with the 5-on-5s. And I think Vici just did such a good job at making sure, like Super on the Panda, for instance, initiating and making these fights happen all the time, and just constantly taking either Havost or FNG out of the equation.
Yeah,
he had like a 7-minute blink on the brew as well.
Yeah,
I mean,
and that's exactly what shouldn't have happened. And I thought that was what the Enchantress pick was sort of for, like, make sure that Panda wasn't farming, and then they safe laned him.
What do you think this does for Na'Vi? I mean, emotionally, obviously it's bad, but in terms of picks and change-ups for the next game, what do you think? They're probably not going to be trying anything early game.
I think it's actually fairly promising. They just need to sub out a couple of heroes. Seb was talking about how they should have had Shadow Shaman as one of the heroes. I think that would have worked amazingly. Granted, he had to get level 6 before like level 15 or minute 15 or 17. But if they had that ability, push down towers and take down T1s and T2s, that would have been fantastic. Also, I think if Dendi was given like a Queen of Pain with an early Orchid, they really needed that silence because Skywrath was being out first, or like a Puck. I think it would have turned out a lot differently. So
apparently Dendi was captaining in that.
Oh, was
game.
he?
Yeah, that's what I've heard. So he was doing the drafting and the captaining, so if he wanted that, he could get it.
So it was sort of overkill going for Enchantress and Ursa, because they both have that ability to take down an early Roshan, but there's no need for both of them. So I feel like the Enchantress pick wasn't necessary.
Yeah, I like the idea of Na'Vi. It's like, sure, we're not Dire. We know that Dire have the Roshan advantage. So I'm getting an Ursa and I'm getting an Undying, so you can't fight in Roshan. And we're going to have, if you're going to build a strat around getting Roshan as Vici Gaming, it's not going to work. We're going to counter it because we have the Roshan power. But they were, in my opinion, completely outpicked. I mean, they had to deal with the Panda, with the Timbersaw, and with the Morphling, 3 cores that they have to be stunned, silenced, or something, and they have nothing. They have 1 Ogre Magi stun, but besides that, they have nothing.
Could be 4.
So yeah, I mean, it's honestly, it was really hard for Na'Vi to. They needed lockdown, and Synderen was casting and was saying they need hexes. Hell yeah, they need hexes, but if you're gonna have to build Phase Boots and Hex as Razor, it means you're in trouble, and there's a problem with your lineup. And to be honest,
Enchantress really fell behind. I mean,
yes.
there were some points in the game where she was so far behind, it was like, well,
but
what can she contribute?
When you play Enchantress and the enemy is really aware of what's going on the map and you can't gank them, at least you're putting passive pressure and getting farm in your cores, but we can't really blame FNG for that. If Vici is playing super careful and have really good map awareness, then she's not going to get any gank help.
Okay, Sherlock Flax on the end. Your investigations into the dominance of VG. You called this one.
No, I said Na'Vi.
Yeah, you said Na'Vi for the game, but you said VG overall.
I did, yeah.
So we'll kind of give you that. I'm trying to give him an out here, guys. Play along with me.
You know, it's the way it goes.
I like that tactical decisions.
Yeah.
It's smart. So, I mean, talk to us. I mean, did you expect them to just
stimmy
that early game and then come back in again?
The thing is, I think that when they've got players like Black, you know that Morphling's going to just emerge with farm at some point in the game and just roll over you, and that's what he did.
Yeah, that goal got out of control.
It was just like he was way in the lead.
Yeah.
Na'Vi couldn't keep up. They had players who were under-farmed. Game over.
I mean, the funny thing is, with VG, sometimes when you watch them play, you sort of go, well, where's the star? Who's doing the cool stuff? But actually, they're all doing it. They're all just sort of... It's almost like they're running through the motions of just, yeah, well, we know how to win and we'll just carry on doing it. There's nothing spectacular about it, but it's very efficient.
I thought it was particularly impressive from FY on the Crystal Maiden that he died a lot early on, and yet he still maintained the biggest net worth of any of the support heroes. I think he killed maybe 3 tombstones.
Yeah, at least 2.
Yeah, so that had a huge part in that.
We don't think a lot about Maiden as a damage dealer, but Maiden took Undying down many times alone, just on a stone from the Panda ultimate, and then just Maiden solo killing an Undying. So we have to think also about, I mean, as when people arrive that Maiden is actually a huge damage dealer early on in the game when you get level 6 as fast as FY did. And again, you have no stun when you're Na'Vi. Maiden is going to get a full ulti off anyway because you stunned, well, you wasted the stun on the Link and Morph. I mean, it's so hard for them to deal with anything.
And that's another problem with the lineup and Enchantress and Ursa again, because they had these constant skirmishes and there was nothing that Na'Vi could really offer in terms of instant damage to the Vici lineup, whereas Vici could just spam down one of the heroes really, really quick. We saw Havos dying a lot, FNG himself dying a lot to these burst combos from Lich and Crystal Maiden, and that's where I just feel like the supports were much better classed for Vici Gaming.
Yep.
Malini, you're now the coach, you're now the captain of Na'Vi. Sorry,
wow,
we just made him.
Breaking news.
We're allowed to do that here. We just put you in charge. What do you do, game 2? What do you say to the guys? What do you pick?
I think they need to win the game around like 35 to 40. That should be the timeline that they're aiming for. Anything past like 45 or 50, Black, Ice, everyone's just going to outfarm them and outcarry them in the late game. That's not Navi's strength. They shouldn't play to that at all.
Even that's way too late.
Yeah, it is way too late, but ideally you'd win before 30, but it's really difficult in this patch to win that early. So I think they just need to draft more team fight, maybe not ban out Death Prophet, take it themselves. It's not their style, but it's how they can win versus Vici, because they can't match up in the same style. Like, okay, we're gonna have strong lanes and, you know, try and gank them, because Vici just completely...
But it was actually Vici who banned the Death Prophet.
Oh, well, I mean, that's how Na'Vi needs to win, though. Yeah. They have to draft more team fight, maybe even something like Pugna, and just... we have to fight, and they needed Undying 5-on-5 before 15 minutes. He is the king, and they just couldn't do it.
I think Pugna is a great viable pick. I think the Undying pick was actually fine. He, of course, won his lane against Ice, first spotting him. I think
got a kill. We don't know how.
We don't know how, but just imagine if Ice, I mean, those two players at this level, if there's a kill 1 versus 1, it means that Ice was actually going for the kill as well on the Undying, right? Yeah. He didn't die with Undying being full life. That never happened. So just imagine if Ice would have killed the Undying 1 versus 1, then Na'Vi would be in like really big trouble. Funny, it was a big play from him, but it should never happen. So even with that, they lost pretty hard. So
do you think as well the fact that Vici had such hard heroes to kill, like, all right, Lich and Maiden maybe, but Timbersaw, like SSIce, we saw him escaping so many times. Brewmaster, if he gets his ult off, hard to kill. Morphling, hard to kill. So if you want Na'Vi to push early and dominate early, do they ban those heroes out?
A lot of focus was given to the heroes, but you have to compliment Vici on their Roshan control. Like, second Roshan, Timbersaw was just up there constantly throwing chakrams in. They sneaked into third one, too, on their own, and they just didn't really give any quarter to Na'Vi.
It wasn't so much the Roshan control as it was just like delaying the Roshan, because Na'Vi always ended up, or not always, but in the first 2 attempts ended up getting the Roshan, but they invested a lot of time into doing so, and Black was off farming meanwhile, and they picked off, I think FNG died every Roshan fight, maybe twice even. Because that's how long prolonged these skirmishes were.
We picked out Black and FNG as players to watch at the beginning of the game. How do you think they matched up against each other, and how do you think they did in their respective teams?
I mean, Black did what he needed to do, and I think FNG... in this game, Enchantress doesn't seem like his strong suit. It's not the same way we've seen him perform with the Vengeful Spirit. It's a hero that he's been playing that I've been very impressed with how he plays it. He's very good at finding the farm while still setting up all the fights and being on the map where he needs to be. So I'd love to see them picking up the Vengeful Spirit. And I'm actually surprised that no one seems to favor that hero right now, because I feel it has a lot of strength.
Okay. Seb, what do you think?
Like, when you're playing Enchantress, you have to make all the calls early on. I'm going to be ganking there and doing that and doing that. And if you can't find openings, it's really hard to actually come back with that hero, because you're facing a Lich, a Maiden, a full burst damage, right? Morphling. And Enchantress has tankiness, but not versus magical damage. You have to get stats. The Untouchable, obviously, versus physical damage. The heal, it's a heal over time, so it doesn't work. So, I mean, if you're Enchantress, and whenever you get Nova plus waved from Morphling, you die, then position yourself in a Roche is really, really hard. So I think it was a really hard game for him to play. I still think he did a lot of mistakes positioning-wise, but yet again, I mean, let's say the momentum he had as Enchantress passed, like after 5 minutes in the game, his role isn't that big.
We spoke a little earlier on about the patch and about the implications of it, and the fact that the good players step up early in new patches and they genuinely take advantage of some of the flaws that they might find, or, you know, exploits that they can find. Na'Vi are those guys, but we're not seeing that from them. Why?
I think Vici more so are those guys. We saw FY, for instance. He sacrificed his life twice within the first 10 minutes just to make sure that they got the kill on either the Razor or some other hero. But he sacrificed his life, but they made sure that they got the hero down early enough. So it was worth it because he's that support hero. And they just generally positioned themselves better, as Seb was saying. We saw the Enchantress constantly out of position. in the front of things rather than having the Undying go in. Even the Yoga could have been standing in the midst of things because of his high HP gain and the armor on him. The Enchantress had no place in being there, even with her Nature's Attendant.
I also think that going for a full early game fighting like Navi did, and when you let the Brewmaster, it's really the hero you don't want to face, because that hero with no farm, he's able to do so much. I mean, Brewmaster with boots early on, level 6, can win a fight by his own, and we saw Vici get 3 kills in the Russian era thanks to that hero. So I'm pretty sure Navi is going to be looking at that hero as a ban if they want to play an aggressive style again.
Well, Batrider gone again. That's exactly the same as last time, right?
Yep. So Dire is first pick every time. So last time we had Vici, Dire, and first pick. This time around it's Navi.
Same again.
Yeah.
Exactly the same ban.
So this means that it's bans toward the team they're facing, and not really because of the Dire Radiant positions.
The thing is, the heroes they banned are all heroes you don't want to have to play against, right? So I think it kind of makes sense. Like Death Prophet, you know, you never want to play against Death Prophet.
Razor didn't really have that much impact last game either. I think they overloaded a little bit too much on physical damage.
And needs to be said, Havos played an actually good Razor. He did really well on playing an off-lane Razor against the Lich.
Yeah.
And still coming out with as much farm as he did in a relative short amount of time. Like his 20 minutes into the game farm was pretty significant. And then he just fell off from there because that's when Navi started losing.
So this is funny because, I mean, funny might not be the word, but Vici let the Death Prophet this time around. They did not ban it, they banned the Razor, which they just won against.
There you go.
There it is.
First pick Death Prophet for Navi. Let's see how Vici want to deal with the hero. It's a hero that's really hard to fight. So Brewmaster, so that's a 50-50, because Brewmaster is one of the heroes that can solo kill a Death Prophet early on, the first 10 minutes. Like you just clap ulti, Death Prophet's dead. But later on in the game, Death Prophet just counters Brewmaster because of the silence, because of the spirits just destroying the Brewlings, and also because you have to focus the Death Prophet. If you're going to Cyclone the Death Prophet when she ultis, then it's even worse. You're just giving him a free Yule Scepter.
Yeah.
Also no way to mitigate her damage. Last game, Brewmaster was nigh invincible, and at least for the first 30 minutes of the game, like Death Prophet, the evasion doesn't do anything, Drunken Haze doesn't do anything either. So
and we have the silence against his ultimate, so we already have a 4-second lockdown of his ultimate in a sense. And I mean, Death Prophet is probably one of the heroes that are the best openers for the Faceless Void combo as well. Like when you secure the Death Prophet, following up with the Faceless Void is obviously a good idea. Void, Chronosphere on top of the Panda, another way to deal with that. So I think this game already, if Navi chooses to go with a lineup that can actually contain the Panda and make sure that he doesn't get his split off every time, they're in a much better position than they were last time around.
This is what they severely lacked last game.
Exactly. I think if they let Vici have the Death Prophet last time instead of the Brewmaster, I think it would have
been way better for them.
Better for them, yeah.
Definitely.
Ursa could easily jump in and take down the Death Prophet before the Ghosts do anything.
Exactly. No, right now it's looking okay for Navi. I mean, having Death Prophet versus Panda is always a good thing.
Navi's turn to pick.
Nature's Prophet.
That's a very early Nature's Prophet. It's hard to say why they picked it already.
I think it's a counter pick. It's sort of, or not, it's a ban pick, so to speak. It's to make sure that Navi doesn't get it. Because if they get the Death Prophet and the Nature's Prophet, they already have that possibility on the towers where it's really, really hard for VG Gaming to react to it. So in this case, and because there's no obvious Phonic hero right now.
Also, did they ban him in the last game? Was Nature's Prophet
He was the third ban.
Yeah, for
Vici.
So I think they're grabbing him now.
Yeah.
So the question is Navi going to commit more to a push strat, or are they going to run almost the same thing as last game, except just with a Death Prophet in lieu of...
Well, if there's anything history tells us, is that Navi wants to fight early on, right? And take as much dominant as they can around the 20-minute mark. I still think a Faceless Void could easily help with that.
Tune Protector. That's a very early Tune Protector. It's an FNG hero, for sure. He really likes to play that hero. And again, they're playing early game aggression, but like Tune Protector got really, really strong with Dispatch, in my opinion, because of you always have glyphs, and also the interaction between glyph and armor, not to be underrated, because really it's 200 extra HP on every tower, so it just slows the pushes all the time.
The problem wasn't losing towers in last game.
No, it wasn't really to losing towers.
So why do they pick up Tune Protector now as opposed to later?
I feel like a Lich could have done the same job, but better in terms of
I'm not really saying that they picked Tyrant for the towers. It's just generally a very good hero in Dispatch, in my opinion, because it just gives you this map control, it's a map control hero.
What this does is open up for a lot of aggression on Phonic's part, on the off lane, where he can actually once they pick that offlane hero and see what he goes up against, he can allow himself to be really, really greedy and even aggressive in his play.
It's also very good versus Brewmaster when you think about it. Whenever he splits, you just ulti with Protector, then the rulings are really useless for.
Do you think it's worth Navi banning out the Naga Siren? There's so many late gamers that pretty much do the same thing. They did Morphling last game. They can easily pick Anti-Mage, TB already banned out. They could do Spectre. There's just so many that is it worth banning out one over the other?
I would have gone with the Spectre ban instead of the Siren at this point, just because there's already a Natus Prophet. They can put the Brewmaster on the middle lane. We do have seen Vici Gaming do this trend of either they pick the Brewmaster or the War Runner and then farm him up on the safe lane to get a fast Blink Dagger.
Oh, Wisp on Vici. I think it's one of the first time I've seen Vici draft Wisp, at least for me. I'm not sure if plays Wisp.
They've played it, but I can't remember like what exact match or anything.
Then I missed that game. I'm really excited to see Wisp on Vici's gaming side. It's going to be really interesting.
Spectre and Void bans, they were both fairly obvious. Although I don't feel like Navi would have gone with the Void pick. Centaur was much more obvious, but also banned out. I'm actually curious to see what Navi's plan for the offlaner here is. You mentioned earlier that Ogre Magi was a decent offlaner.
I think it's a really good hero to get, especially versus Wisp. It's a lot of burst damage on the Wisp. Like you can't show. You have to hide on your Wisp because you just get one-shotted by all the magical damage output from Ogre Magi.
What other options are available to him? Are they gonna go like there's Undying available? There's like Timber. Even Nyx is like so for burst.
I mean, one of the most popular ones being the Clockwork, I don't feel is viable at all against this particular lineup. It doesn't do anything against the Brewmaster. It's particularly bad against Natus Prophet, I feel, because of the Treants. And then, of course, Wisp. Yeah, Weaver makes sense. Although, it might be a Hovost hero.
Yeah, Tiny Wisp, nice. I would like to see some more stuns from Na'Vi.
Welcome back to August.
Na'Vi has to be really careful about the Death Prophet mid because Wisp and Tiny can kill the GP anytime.
Even with Treant?
Yeah. Even with Treant, it's a lot of damage output because of the obviously the stun into toss and the damage from Wisp just kills the armor really fast. So
yeah, the avalanche takes it off chunk by chunk. So one avalanche actually takes off the entire.
That's a problem for Dandy right now, in my opinion. So they will have to find a support
they can also
that can help
safely it with the Host too.
Yeah, they can.
That's
but then
highly likely. But as you were saying before going into the picking bans, there's no way that Na'Vi can now allow themselves to go past the 40-minute mark because of this split push ability from the Natus Prophet and of course the Wisp Tiny combo. They're just going to lose their
lineup
base.
is not that good at sieging an end game before.
No, it's not. They've already, in my book, picked themselves into a hole.
Who, Na'Vi?
Yeah, a little bit.
Right now, they just want to win the lanes, basically. They want to have really strong lanes and really good early / mid game potential. Yeah. Like fighting this lineup early on is really hard. If you don't, get an advantage from the lane and you're Vici, it's gonna be really hard. Like fighting going into the Ravage, into the Weaver with a lot of damage, Death Prophet ultimate, and you have really squishy heroes.
It's incredibly hard for them to actually kill off anything from Na'Vi right now.
It's really hard.
Because Weaver, of course, with the built-in double escape ability, we have a tanky Tidehunter, the Treant Protector to help anyone out of it, and then just Death Prophet, it can just stand in the back. It doesn't even need to be in the midst of things.
It's gonna be the same game. Vici is gonna farm, just wait, trying to win some time with the Brewmaster ultimate, win some time with the just counter pushing, and they're gonna have Prophet split pushing on the lane, Wisp and Tiny split pushing on the other lane, and just punish Na'Vi when they overextend. So right now, Na'Vi needs what they lacked last game, something that can either brute force, push faster to force Vici into an early fight they don't want to take, or punish split push by ganking on the map. So
it's not going to happen, but if they picked up Chen here from Vici Gaming, I would really love that. It would add that early game aggression. It synergizes very well with Wisp and Natus Prophet for that matter, and it just
that push would be crazy, right?
And it would allow them to actually be the aggressors early on when they gathered up.
And that could really surprise Na'Vi actually.
The only thing is, you were saying that the Na'Vi lineup is quite hard to kill, so do Vici necessarily want to go for an early game aggression? Like, will
they already secured their late game. Vici is miles ahead late game in my book right now.
And they have decent team fight.
Rubik is a really good pick for... Okay, never mind. It's banned actually. It was really good versus Navi's lineup. You can steal the Tsukushi, the armor, the
and there's
Ravage.
an Enchantress ban, so they could have technically thought of it.
Yeah.
I don't. It's been a while since I've seen them play Chen at all, though.
They can get whatever they want right now, Vici. Honestly, I think they're gonna have. They will have to triple safe lane, in my opinion, if they want to protect that Tiny. Again, the dual lane mid is still viable versus the Death Prophet, because Navi did not answer yet. It's not going to be the Twin Protector just roaming around. It's,
No.
It's not going to work.
There's a lot of options available. They have to pick now, though.
Crystal Maiden again.
Worked last time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a way to protect your Tiny. If they challenge, you just go as 2 supports, and if they don't, Crystal Maiden just goes into the jungle, get some extra farm. It's like a semi-jungler right now.
It's a safe and solid pick all around, I feel.
Like it. It's obviously really good with Prophet, with Brewmasters. They spam their spells all the time, so the aura also does a lot early game.
As a Chen player, though, I still can't help but thinking what could have been. And I think they might have been considering it. They took an awful lot of time picking the Crystal Maiden, and I don't think it was because they were contemplating between Lich and Crystal Maiden, but rather that Chen here would actually have been super good.
Yeah, definitely. Navi like lockdown again, honestly. Like, that's a good hero. That's a good lockdown hero. Yeah. That's a really good last pick for Navi.
So, Bane is our last pick for Navi. Time to get into our second game of the quarterfinal. Remember, Vici Gaming from China 1-0 up. Let's go back to our commentators, Synderen and Toby1.
Thank you very much, Paul. We are back here for game number 2 of Navi up against VG Gaming as a single elimination quarterfinal. That's what we're doing right now, Sin. So it's all on the line. Navi 1 loss away from being eliminated from ESL One.
I think they have a better draft this time around, though.
Yes. Yes, I think we both agree on that.
Yeah, the first game was kind of a... I don't want to... I'm not sure if gimmick is the right word for it, but it seemed a little bit like they invested a lot into something that might work.
Let's use the word experimental.
Yeah, it was kind of experimental. Interestingly enough, this time it was FNG drafting, which we saw. So maybe Navi is... they had Dendi picking in the last game. I don't know if we should read too much into this, or if it's just like a little thing, but it looks like they're back to the stable Navi here with FNG in the captain slot. So the one thing Navi has dealt with this time around is that I don't feel like their lineup is as all-in as it was in the previous game. This time they have way more control. They have Ravage, they have Overgrowth, they have Fiend Script and all of that. And they have decent late game too. So I would agree with Melk to the saying that Vici is probably stronger late game, but I'm not sure if I agree on his sentiment that it's by a long stretch. Weaver is incredible late game, and I don't think Vici has good Weaver solutions. They don't really have that much against it. Weaver is one of the carries that can actually kite a Tiny around fairly well. Ice again with the scout out here of the smoke. Yep. Similar to game 1, Navi will not be successful.
Well, actually check out who is playing what in this game. So this is something which I believe Vici Gaming actually did at WCA, where they ran Ice as this Tiny, and they actually give Black the Nature's Prophet in this game. So Ice prefers to play the Tiny, even though Black, he's played a lot of Tiny in his time. But they just won't give it to him in this game. That allows Super and FY to now run a dual lane bot lane up against whatever Navi throws to them. It throws Ice in towards the middle lane as the Tiny, the off lane Nature's Prophet, and then the rotating Crystal Maiden. This actually gives me almost... Okay, they're actually switching their lanes up. Oh, I don't know, they're just sharing a tango. This actually gives me flashbacks to Wagamama strat start. Crystal Maiden as well as the Tiny was one of his older combinations he ran back in the days of Scorn. When they ran their dual lane in mid. And it's quite effective for your early burst damage because you're not really expecting, like Avalanche Toss comes up and you're at level 2 and okay, that's some nice damage, but when you add Frostbite and Nova on top with the Avalanche and the Toss combo, your kill potential really goes up a long, long way with this combo.
I don't think he's going to be staying mid though.
You don't? Not when there's 3 heroes showing themselves to
3 mid. I think they're going to rotate the Crystal Maiden into the jungle / bottom, because they're going to realize that if Havos plays this really well, I think he's going to win the lane against Brewmaster. Of course, there's 4 tangos and a salve on and a Stout Shield on Super, so it's going to take Havos a while, but this is a lane Weaver will eventually win. And they are not interested in that happening. They're interested in shutting down probably, I guess we should say, arguably the main carry for Navi in this game, or it is if we go late enough. And interestingly enough, they've put that in the off lane. So yeah, Crystal Maiden will already be making her way there. They're going to try to pull mid. FY will be stacking again. Or, no, sorry, that's the first time. It's 1 minute.
Surprisingly, they're not actually using the Wisp clearance to pull that middle lane. With just 1 range creep, you clean off the tree line, then you can just do the quick pull down. They surprisingly didn't do that. Even this mid, when they tether up for a moment. But FNG, this is gonna cripple their lanes a little bit more, because one good thing, like, okay, Havos will take a while to burn through Brewmaster's life points, fair enough, but Brewmaster's still pretty much up in his face, and he's gonna get a quick level 6 on this Brewmaster. So when the split's up and available, it's a lot more difficult for Na'Vi to take fights, and that's when they buy space for the Wisp and Tiny to come online. And what's Na'Vi really trying to buy space for? Like, they need to find their levels as well. Vorce kind of wants to get probably far more than he wants to get levels. And then up on the top lane, you got Black, who's kind of doing something similar. Like, he wants to get levels early on, but he kind of is dependent on both. But Funnick needs to get his level 6 up. So when does the Brewmaster ulti hit? When does its Tide ulti hit? And who is the primary targets they're searching for? That's my questions lie.
Yeah, there's a lot of really important ultimates in this game. I think as far as Navi's laning goes, I would be favoring them a slight bit going into the early part of the mid game, unless if the Brewmaster gets a couple of really good ultimates off. The Ravage is, in combination with the other heroes Navi has, I think it's got really good synergy.
This might be the greatest time for him with the DD rune that's been just being picked up by FY, but he living armors himself now. But by doing so, he can't provide Leech Seed for the rest of his teammates. For his mid solo where Ice gets too deep.
I want to talk a little bit more about... I feel like this game is going to be a lot closer. Let's say that for now. The lanes are kind of quiet right now. It's just being farming for both teams. One thing that you should never underestimate in a late game situation... Oh, bottom lane, Havost is actually going to get frostbitten after his Shukuchi expires here. 3 seconds till the next one.
He needs a Drunken Brawler hit. The living armor's going to help him.
Oh, that was really close.
But then again, Black, he's TP'd in for this one. He's got Sprout available. It's going to hold a Vorce here. There's a tank up. Oh, he has to cut twice. I thought he would have cut out the wrong tree at the moment. He's low on life, and Black's keeping up with him. Shukuchi's off cooldown, though. So he'll run up. The Wisp Balls from FY try to come in range for it. Vici Gaming, they're scampering across this map trying to search for any advantage they can gain early on.
And even though Black TP's in for that, I still think it's a win for Vici, even though they don't get the kill. Forcing Havost out of lane for about a minute here, sending him back to base, will mean that when he comes back, Super's going to have a level advantage. Crystal Maiden's going to be level 3 almost as well, and it's going to be a lot harder. But to get back to what I was talking about, Overgrowth is one of those abilities that's incredibly good against Tiny, because when Tiny goes into fights, in this game, when you're playing with an IO, Tiny will generally get either BKB or Manta as one of his 3rd or 4th items, or sometimes a little bit earlier. But in this game, you're kind of going to need both, because the Treant can really be patient. There's no one else on Vici Gaming's side that's going to be dealing out insane damage in the teamfights unless Black gets really farmed, which he's not on the path to with his 5 CS at 4 minutes. You just wait with the Treant. Knowing FNG is probably going to get Arcanes into Blink, and then he'll just wait. Whenever the BKB or Manta is used, Overgrowth is going to shut down Vici so hard.
Poor Deadly. He rotated all the way down to that bottom rune area to pick up the rune, but he got frostbitten up and denied by the Crystal Maiden. And again, we see this 4-minute rotation. Again, Funnick as well as Avos, they just switch. And then... well, Funnick's actually a hell of a lot better up against Super, but at the same time, Super's rapidly approaching his level 6, so he may not care about this. With a quick rotation in from Ice or from Wisp, they could actually cause some problems. But then he's been very now passive in this middle lane. He's falling behind in the CS on this lane too.
This is not a lane he can really win. It's really similar to game 1, to be honest. He's playing a 1-on-2 lane and he's got 16 CS at 4 minutes. That seems to be the benchmark for him playing this 1-on-2 lanes, which I think is perfectly fine for Dendi right now. Death Prophet is a very farm-dependent hero, but it's not to the extent that you need free farm. Just getting 1 or 2 core items at a decent timing is going to be fine. And at the end of the day, if he can survive the burst of the Radiant, which gets a lot easier when you have living armor, I think you're going to be fine.
Oh, middle lane, Avalanche, they're going in for Denny. The Nightmare from Vanscore's going to hold Ice there. FY will take it off him for a moment. He knows as a Wisp, he's able to survive that, and Denny, maybe a little bit too early. They Nightmare switch around again. So no one will die here in the middle lane. And Ice has a trip stack prepared for him by FY. That's why I was just flagging before for the viewers at home that we have like a triple stack on one side. It's just mud columns on the other. But the triple stack's still going to burst Ice up. And now Avalanche toss, the Whisperer balls, Ice, he's too low! The living armor kept Vanscore up.
Double.
And this will be a double. Crip Swarm 1 second. FY, you're toast! Dandy will pick up a double kill here in the middle lane. And Na'Vi find the start they were searching for in game number 1.
This is such a big deal, getting Dendi a double kill in that mid lane. Whenever, I think IO Tiny is one of the dual lane combinations, if not the dual lane combination, that has the highest competitive win rate. The games they lose is generally when the laning stage doesn't go well. Either that you don't kill, or especially if you're playing a 2-on-1 lane or a 2-on-2 and you get killed in that lane. This is such a big deal because it sets back their impact quite a lot, and the lane they were supposed to win is now not even close. Dendi is winning it by quite a lot right now. FaZe Boots Bottle at 6 minutes.
He's the highest net worth on the board now, 3,000 for him. And the nearest one to him is 800 away, as far as Radiant side goes. And that's actually Tiny.
This is,
Avalanche toss him back. The Nightmare's over an Ice, but he doesn't have a combo yet. Then he actually triggers Exorcism for this. Team Black was TPing in. But Ice, he's lost his friend and he will back out. And of course, with no Nature's Prophet there, he's got nowhere to really force any kind of issue.
Man, this is going to be a scary Death Prophet. And it's not just that. Na'Vi are also winning the farm wars. They rotated Havos to the top lane, and he's been forcing Black back to base at least once, I saw, maybe even twice. Black is playing without regen, so Weaver will play incredibly aggressively against this Nature's Prophet, who has no answer. This is an impossible lane for him to win, especially when he had a worse start. And at the same time, you've got Funnick free farming the bottom lane. He's got 43 CS. He got about 20 of those in the top lane.
Yep.
And since that point, they can't contest him in this bot lane. This Maiden and Brewmaster, what are they going to do? They walk in, start attacking, you anchor smash. Brewmaster does no damage. They're going to have to split for the kill. And even then, I think it's possible for Funnick to live.
Vanscore's in a little bit of trouble. He's Nightmared up. Funnick's moving over. He just want to commit Ravage for this. At the same time, Ice also making its way over. And Funnick, he's going to reveal himself. The Avalanche toss trying to keep Vanscore out. The Ravage just going to connect Y, and he's going to tether himself away. The Wrath of Nature bouncing in. He's already going to start bottling up, ready to fight. As Ice throws Super into the middle of Vanscore. Picking up the bang, he's got toss in 3 seconds time. He's got to try and keep up. The TP's coming in from the Prophet. The Sprouting caught Dandy, which means Super jumps himself in. The clap 1 second away. Dandy is a little bit too fast. He's face boots. The early kills giving him the money for that Super. Comes in for the clap again, but he's well off target. And they go back for their rune battle again. FY's going to deny this against Funnick. If you can't have it, no one can have it. But this does actually show too the potential without having a Blink Dagger over on the Brewmaster, that you are still capable of fighting. However, Ice, he's too far up. The Nightmare on him, support's rotating over. Funnick does not have Ravage. There is an Avalanche toss combination. You'll just toss him back. Avalanche as well, it's got to be used. It holds Dandy and Vanscore back for Funnick. Easy body block into the anchor smash. And Ice. Really caught no man's land there.
Na'Vi are starting to get a very sizable lead, and it's got the implications of them on the mid game here with Ice being 0-2 top lane. Black, okay,
he's just back on the tower.
I think Vost can actually play this even more aggressively than he is, because there's no counter. The moment Tiny is dead, they can't stop him from using time-lapse. Unless they use Brewmaster Split, but then he's just going to time-lapse while that's happening. There's no targeted stuns. The only stun is Avalanche, so...
Yep.
I wouldn't be surprised to see Havos going for some real 4 plays where he just dives really hard, because in this game you can definitely get away with it. I think the Weaver was a great pick.
Before he can do that, because he went for a straight hand of minus over on Havos. So with this, he's going to come online a lot later. So going for these nice little dive pickups, that Avalanche toss combo is still going to do a lot of work. And now Ice and FY, they take finally care of this stack. So this is going to be a large injection of money coming in, as well as levels. Like the Wisp is sitting here at level 5 right now. At the end of this, he's still going to be shy of like 5.5, but it's not too shabby for him. That means Relocate has to come into play soon.
It's still a hard game to relocate in, though.
Yeah, true, because you're going to get Nightmare and Fiend's Grip the second you arrive.
You're relocating against a team with Weaver, who you can't kill. He's just going to run away when they relocate.
Yep.
Tide, same story. He can use a defensive Ravage if he feels like, or there's a lot of counterplay potential. And then on top of all of that, there's still living armor. It's a very difficult game for the IO to become very useful in. And in contrast to the previous game we saw, we haven't really felt the Crystal Maiden yet. It's Fenrir playing it in this game, it was FY in the previous one, and it's 2 very different games and 2 very different ways to play the Maiden that they have to pull out. But if you're not getting a lot of value out of CM very early on in the game, it's kind of Ogre syndrome from last game, right? Why would you pick the Maiden if she is not providing you enough early on, which is when she is a very strong pick? It's not a freezing field game either. I don't see it being realistic to get good freezing fields.
They have a crack at bottom lane. Funnick comes in. That's the end of the haster, and he TP'd in. He might have to commit Ravage for this. Vanscore just wants to go in for the split. He wants to force the split out by using the Fiend's Grip. But that's not going to happen. The Blink Dagger comes up for the Brewmaster, and all the timing is wrong.
And the farm here continues, and gotta say, the conclusion is still the same. Now he's getting the benefit.
He's jumping. He's got to split the second he sees Vanscore. Or does he?
That means he just showed his blink.
Yes, he
did. So there's no surprise factor now for initiation with that for Vici Gaming. That's kind of a big deal that he goes out and shows this to Na'Vi. Is
this the kind of thing you're talking about, man? Havos going straight past the tier 1 tower? I thought actually he was going to go a lot deeper than that.
It's so difficult playing Prophet in this game right now. Oh well, you could play in your own jungle, then it's really easy. but they don't get enough value out of that. Someone has to be in that top lane, and I guess Black is the best call. But
who are you going to send up there? The Crystal Maiden?
Yeah, there's kind of no one who can deal with this Weaver right now for the Radiant side. They're going to have to itemize against it. I think Black going for the Midas is the right call. We see it less and less these days. We see Prophets often going for the Phase Boots first, and sometimes they don't even get Midas, but a Midas in this game, I think, is a good choice. They need Black to get really farmed, because I think this is the kind of game where, I know it sounds a little bit crazy, but Tiny and Brewmaster usually, they usually just win games together. Teamfight control from the Brewmaster and Tiny clubbing away. I don't think Tiny can do it this game. I don't think it's enough.
Super. Blink. Blab. He gets split off. Vanscore's in trouble. He's actually trapped there, especially when Fenrir slows him down. The Frostbite to try and make sure he stays where he is. And then the relocating. The Whisper is doing some nice work for Funnick. Ravage will trigger. FY to go down, which means Ice has to stay here. But with Black joining the fight, Avorce as well. We bring the whole kit and caboodle down here. Black into the tree line. They've got to get this bug off him before Avorce can jump in with a Frostbite into the toss. Avorce able to time lift himself away to safety. Black will stay alive in the trees where it's safe, while Ice staring down Avorce. He doesn't have his combo available. So because of that, he will be backing up. But a 3-5 trade-off. The Exorcism was triggered by Identity, though.
A very good play here from Vici Gaming to take that opportunity and get these 2 kills for 1. Worth mentioning is FNG wasn't in the fight, so only the living armor was there. There was no leech seed, and all the while he got level 6 top. So the next time around for Vici Gaming, it's going to be harder to pull off that play when the overgrowth is there as well, to just hold them together. That skill up, by the way, we didn't talk about that yet. How good overgrowth is with Exorcism. It's a long lockdown where the spirits will just go to town and deal a lot of damage. Dendi now with a 13-minute Yules. He was playing against an IO Tiny lane. And he has 4-0.
It's not only the initial double kill, but the straight follow-up kill they got after that.
He is looking
Super, he's in a little bit more trouble. Avorce and Vanscore, finally the Fiend's Grip will be used. It wasn't used the entire last engagement, and Super will die here. There was nothing that was going to save him from that. With Avorce damage available, they bring him down and take the Tier 1 tower up on the top lane. Na'Vi are winning on all fronts right now up against Vici Gaming.
Yeah, the one thing that Vici Gaming can do to come back in this is just to try to keep their cool. It's not that important, as we talked about in Game 1.
They're coming again. Oh. Nightmare over on Tiny. FY,
no
he's keeping the tether there as long as possible. No Ravage, but he'll actually toss FNG down, meaning it's a guaranteed FY kill. They actually triggered Overgrowth to try and ensure the kill, but there's Yulsip is sending Ice up. He's got his 4-4 combo, but then he gets the silence up. So no joy for him, no rune either. I don't think he wants to try and play around with this. Avalanche toss, he'll get a revenge kill over on the bait. Buys up the Yoga Club before death. It's not a large amount of money being lost, but he does give the kill over to Na'Vi.
Still great play from Ice here to get a turnaround kill in that situation. Just knowing the limitations of the hero, he chose the exact target he could kill. Dendi would not have died to that burst, so good targeting here. Now, Blink Dagger is going to be picked up by Funnick and sold again.
Didn't want to hold on to it.
Thinking about a mech instead. If they don't want to build that one on Dendi, I guess he is the hero of choice for that. No, he wants to buy in the side shop. Okay. So Blink Ravage now available, and Na'Vi are on the offensive here. I don't know. This tower is gone. The question is if Vici Gaming want to.
They actually wasted that.
Continue here.
They just wasted that. They used fortification after the tower went down. They tried to get a little bit tricky and use it before, but as in like a fraction of a second before, but they end up blowing the fortification, which means now Na'Vi, if they want to, they can keep this push going because there's no refresh fortification available for him. That actually means Denny's ulti even has time to hit into this thing. Super sitting here waiting to go. But the Tide Ravage is there with a Blink Dagger, which isn't revealed to Vici Gaming. They can't go for this. Vanscore needs to get himself in range for a Fiend Script. That's the only way this is really going to work.
And look at Fenrir.
He's got no way out.
Talk about being stuck.
But he can't TP, and he knows that Na'Vi could just be potentially sitting around there.
This could be an opening. He might try for it.
They're close enough. The Fiend Strip. There'll be no split from Super. Na'Vi have got this well under wraps right now. They'll push it. They'll take the Tier 2 tower. And this is where Black's pick does come into play. It's the split push and force some kind of reaction. And they get it from Funnick. So he'll be the man on the defense. I don't know if Na'Vi really have enough to finish this tower, even with no fortification. Fenrir smokes to walk out. The buyback comes from the Brewmaster, and now Fenrir, Sentry Ward, they'll catch a Vorce down, but Fenrir jumped up for Denny. The relocate's also searching for Denny, but he got a double silence off, so Ice can't use his combo just yet, and he misses the avalanche, while Vorce actually dived under the Tier 2 tower for the Crystal Maiden. He's Shakuching his way out of here, into the tree line for a moment, so they can see him, but they can't do anything about him. Na'Vi are moving perfectly during these engagements.
It's so hard to relocate in this game. Like, even relocating on Dendi, there's the counterplay from the well-timed silence. He has the Yule Scepter as well that he can use when Tiny starts going for his combo. And even if it's just the Avalanche toss he blocks,
FY's in trouble. The Yule Scepter up and towards the air. He's got a tether. They couldn't get the silence up in time. He came back to Ice. That's a big Avalanche with a Ravage. He'll buy space super. The Nightmare actually protects him in that case. Now he'll go into the split and focus on defense score, sending the tree up and towards the air. The Bane's on the sidelines. Black comes to join him as well. This man's rushing up an Orchid too. They toss down, they bring down FNG. And with the entire team here in the middle lane, so they want to try and force the tier 1 tower, but Weaver in the meantime, he just took the tier 2 tower in the bottom lane.
Great play here from FY to get out of that and turn it around. And Vici Gaming get a lot out of this. They get the tier 1 here in mid. As you said, they lose the tier 2 bottom, but I think that was inevitable anyway, so I don't even want to call it too much of a trade, because that was bound to happen with Havos down here fairly soon. So they got a good fight out of that, and in it, Ravage was used, and they didn't lose a single hero. So this opens up the map a little bit. They can try to go for some plays, and if nothing else, at least farm with more safety, knowing that the fights are probably not coming in the next minute and a half. And well, if you're Na'Vi, I still think you're okay with the situation. I think Havost, he's getting close to the Lincolns. This is still going to be probably around, might not be sub 20, but pretty close with a Midas and Treads. That's a fairly good time.
Yeah. The primary, I think, problem that Na'Vi is going to have is when we really get to the late game. Like Mark was already saying, hands down, Vici Gaming looking really damn good in the late game, but you've still got Prophet, who's going to be split pushing the crap out of you, and then you've got potential for a relocate Tiny in with a big Aghanim Scepter. So the clearance of buildings is okay once you get through the tier 1 towers. And then you get that Aghanim Scepter up, which is now 900 gold away for Ice. He wants to have a crack at Havos. He's actually not got the full hit. Oh, maybe! Havos dropping very, very low. Took a split second to time-lapse out of that one. But they're not able to get the kill up there. While Dendi, his Exorcism's already been triggered. They have the Aegis, the model. They are quite good and ready to try and force out this middle lane. But Fenrir is going to hold him back.
Still poking at Havos top lane. He's actually not... No, he's going to be fine. They immediately need to get out of here.
No extra stuns, but they have enough damage to kill off the Wisp before he's able to TP out. So they do at least get one, but they don't get the main man. They wanted Ice more than anybody else. They want to make sure he can't get item transition. Because the second that Aghanims comes up, the flash farming of a Brewmaster, of the Tiny, is so much easier. And we do get the 18-minute Orchid over on Nature's Prophet.
Yeah, Black has been doing a good job in this game, I think. He's 2-0-2. He had a very hard lane after they did the trade-off, and he's still been finding the farm he needs. He hasn't died, and as I mentioned earlier on in the game, I think the Tiny is going to need backup from the Prophet in this game in terms of dealing the damage in the fights, and I think Black's item build here is really good. Orchid first, so they have a counter to either Weaver or like the feed script from Bane, etc., or even Orchiding the Tide and not attacking him, just so you have that 5-second buffer in which the Ravage is not going to come off. And then I'm imagining the next items for Black are after these treads, I think he's going to go into a Hex and then maybe some sort of significant damage. They need more control and more damage out of him, and he's definitely on the right track right now.
Yeah. That's a BKB Maelstrom. That'll be enough for him.
Top lane.
Super's enjoying his farm in mid, but yeah, you're right. FNG comes in on Ice. So she blocks him in the tree line here. He'll go Invis again, but Ice has no way out of here.
This is a pretty big problem if you have Ice.
You're literally pinned in the trees. FY, well, he's going to start TPing out. Ice. Well, he's going to get overgrowth as well. This is not the place they want to be. The Yule Scepter up from Dendi. I don't know what he was really concerned about, but FY, he started to relocate.
And
Ice
can't
go anywhere. He is literally blocked by an invisible tree right now. This kind of stuff is just where you... the mocking as well of Ice. He'll avalanche 3 of them, but Denny will get the double kill. They're actually purposefully not attacking him, just so Denny could also be, like, field even more money there.
That has got to suck for Ice. That was a pretty hilarious play coming out of FNG there, and just the patience as well. He's just standing there like, what's Ice going to do? Are you going to TP? We overgrowth you. They're going to relocate out? Not happening, because they went on FY as the first target, so... And at the same time, Black was doing what he could bot lane to get that tower, but he didn't do it.
It's not gonna work.
Here comes Living Armor. Level 4.
You got Living Armor and Fortification on these tier 1 towers.
It's hard to get through.
Yep. Now Fenrir, Vanscore, as well as Funnick going to team up, and then he comes in again. Looking for the last hit, and he's got it too. But tied up to 4 staffs down so he can attack it. Now, there may even be a follow-up. There is actually. Super comes in. They had the Wrath of Nature bonus damage, so Bane will go down. FY so low on life, but the Exorcism will reach him. Funnick now gives the space for the Ravage, holding Black in position. They'll send him up in towards the air again with the Brewmaster. FNG wants to have a crack. He's staying in close, and there's your Overgrowth. Catching Ice as well. Can't use this tree to any kind of success. Black being chased down by Funnick into the tree line. Out to gush him down. And Na'Vi, they're just rampaging through Vici Gaming. They want the full team wipe, and by Jove, they're going to get it. Super will go down. They took down everybody. It expended a lot of time because Fenrir was even able to respawn after that. But Na'Vi's still taking a 5-0 battle here.
And that fight was just all about the Overgrowth with Exorcism on top. Perfect Overgrowth
so
time.
well
Yeah. FNG, I think this is his best hero for me. I think he plays an exceptional Treant, and you've just seen it this game. The Living Armors have been on point. Great use of the Nature's guys earlier up top, and this is the perfect Overgrowth. He's been doing exactly what he needed to do in this game so far, and this was without the Blink Dagger that he now has in about 500 gold. So it's only going to get easier for him to pull these kind of plays off, and he doesn't need to worry about not dealing the damage. They have lots of damage between Dendi and Horst.
I think they're realizing now too. Check where the Whisper's gone. They don't even care about this tier 2 tower. They know it's gone. Fenrir is trying to stay close enough. He might be able to get a denial off. Just Novering, making him work hard for it. While FY just farms up bottom lane. Buys a little bit more space for his team. But Na'Vi take the tier 2 tower and they can back up. Roshan's still another, well, about 3.5 minutes away from potential spawn time. But they don't really care. They just move to tier 2 tower. Just one objective after the next. They should definitely be watching out that timing for Revorce, though, when he does lose the Aegis.
One thing we haven't looked at too much is the graphs, and it's pretty impressive. This is a 12,000 golden experience lead for Na'Vi at this point. Dendi and Horst are way ahead of the corresponding farmers on Vici Gaming. They're ahead by about 4,000 on each of them, which is, of course, the majority of the net worth difference here between the two teams. And I mean, if you're Vici Gaming at this point, it seems very hard to find the fights. One thing that Na'Vi has managed to do in their draft this time around is that first of all, they don't have a ticking clock against them in the same way.
Yep.
They have heroes they're more comfortable with, in my opinion, and they have counter picks. They actually have ways of dealing with what Vici is trying to do in the fights. They're great against the relocators we've talked about. They've got grip and silence on the Brewmaster, and they've got ways of dealing with this burst damage that IO Tiny usually brings to the table through their itemization. We have the Lincolns on Havost, we have the Yules on Dendi, and of course Ravage is just, and Overgrowth, just great counterplay mechanics here for them. Na'Vi is playing a really damn good game compared to game number 1. They're playing a lot better, and I think they've got the draft to do it as well.
The only thing I'm getting concerned about is what Revorce picks up next, and this might just be extra insurance to make sure things don't go horribly, horribly wrong. But he picks up a BKB as his next item right now. So this does restrict a large amount of the damage. Obviously, Dendi is going like through the roof for his kind of farm. He's starting his own BKB as well, but he's about to crack level 16. And with that, you're basically looking at having a very, very powerful X system. So their physical damage, I think, is actually still going to be okay. Even though Revorce doesn't get something like a Desolator, like that, you go, normally it's like Lincolns, then into damage, or BKB and Desolator together. They're the two you go, but he's gone very, very defensive with his item build this time around. But they're coming to bottom lane. They see Ice farming up. FY's going to relocate, save him. He's already starting. There's your tether in, and pulls him straight back out to safety.
That's dead IO.
Yep.
Na'Vi was looking for more than that, but
they'll take what they can get. And there's no Shadow Blade that will save him from this fight. And there he is. Comes back in again. He may as well do as much damage as he can to the creep wave. He's moving up to try and TP out.
Is he actually making this?
No, there's no way he can do this. He'll be spotted out. There's Eul Scepters available. He'll go into the tree line. He wants to tether back down again. But there was no creep wave anywhere near him. So he just wastes some time. This allows Blight to start the creep skipping up on the top lane.
This Living Armor is bothering Vici so much right now.
Yep.
Every time they try to go for a trade-off play where they try to get map control, they can't get it. It's just... The second pick Treant from Na'Vi in this game, I think, has been the most important pick they made in the whole game. And it's not because his kill attendance has been that high. He's been part of... He only has 4 assists. Treant generally gets very few assists and kills because Living Armor obviously is a global ability but doesn't credit you with anything.
They can't even smoke gank. Actually, maybe they can. Where's the Sentry Ward? They can see FNG walking away. He'll TP up. He's on the outside of the tree line. And Black can't get to him in time. Revorce, though, the Lincoln's Field will be triggered. The Orc is still available, but then he triggers BKB, turns, kills the Crystal Maiden, and looks over to Super as well. He's going to time-lapse out most of this damage, and then just Shikuchi himself away. There is no control whatsoever from this Vici Gaming lineup on him right now.
That was a good BKB time, so...
Yeah.
It's been handy so far.
It wasn't even a block the Orchid, which I thought maybe that would just be the primary thing he needed it for.
Oh, if he didn't have it there, I think that's the exact play Black would have gone for. Because they already triggered it with Frostbite, and then they wanted to Orchid him, but he already cast the BKB, so Black didn't even get to use it. But Yeah, that's a situation that you can't get into with a Deso if you're Vost. You would have died there. Oh, he gets intimidated here by Super. He could have taken that fight and forced a split, I think, but he has no idea where the other heroes are.
Without his bigger damage, and he's, yeah, you're right.
That's a bold play from Super. That's just mental. That's a 100% mind game right there. He couldn't win that fight.
Maybe he thought, considering that's a relocate to save him, it could have been enough. And that will be in the back of a Vorst's mind too. You must be aware that Black could TP at any moment, and while his BKB's down, he has to be doubly careful. Because if he throws away his life points, he's a 5-0-2 right now. That's a good streak coming up from him. Not to mention his levels. That's good experience, good gold, all that can be claimed by VG Gaming. And you don't want to give that kind of momentum. I think they're already going to have enough trouble as it is because they're still worried about looking behind them. Now FY, for the first time, he's the one that gets called out of position. Tethering down, but that allows...
Oh, Dendy's really fast.
FNG, he's all going to... They caught him out. The Nova will come as well. Super, blink, clap, split. He got Vansker and a Vorst slowed down. The bugs are over on Fenrir, but he's underneath the tower. The Avalanche well off target by Ice. As a Wrath of Nature also coming in. A Vorst comes out of Invis just the last moment. So gets hit by the heavy Wrath of Nature. And the Brewmaster split's already been used.
This is a free Roche.
Yeah. Well, then again, I don't know if Na'Vi really want to just pull back right now.
I think they do. They want to defend their side lane. We see Vost porting bottom to disallow Black from...
Yeah, they are. They're moving over, you're right. With their towers also. I thought maybe there's at least one tier 2 tower left.
No, they have nothing to gain on this map, really, apart from the Roche right now. And, of course, the tier 3s. But I don't think it's that time yet for Na'Vi. They're controlling the map very well. They're
when Funnick has his refresher, then he'll be good for it. Yeah. Oh, they found Black.
Oh, maybe.
The Shiva's guard's going to go. They're going to slow him down the Sprout. As she traps the two of them, Black needs more space with a 4-star from Funnick. Gets him close enough to it. Now the X's are going to rip through the tier 3 tower. There is no fortification. 16 seconds left on cooldown. And but that tier 3 tower is toast. Toss damage, but it's merely chip. And Denny's still walking around with the regeneration rune. So he's more than happy to keep this pressure going. And now that she triggered the regeneration rune, so be back to full life and full mana. But the Exorcism is about to wear off. Ice is doing what he can to hold back the creep wave. And now Super. There's no split. He's going to get Fiend script up. They'll control him. Fenrir walks up for the Frostbite. He's Yule set up into the air, so Fans goes full duration into the Ravage as well. Denny is beyond godlike here. They'll look to bring down the mid-rack. So Boss is still here beating away at it. The buyback comes out from Profit. But do they really have enough to push Na'Vi back? There's no overgrowth. The Avalanche toss combo's there. FNG in for the lead seed. They've got the whiz downs. No buffed up Tiny. They're going deeper. Voss looking at Black SGG. It's 26-7. After game number 1, Na'Vi will hit back and force this into a third and deciding matchup to see who will be the first team eliminated from the ESL One.
This was just a totally different team. I have nothing more to say. They just stepped up everything. Drafting, play, team play, coordination, drafting, and individual skill on a totally different level than game number 1. Na'Vi's just been... They just reset for game 2. Very, very impressive stuff here.
Man, they're going to need to find a lot more stability, though. That's one thing. Like, you can say, well, you go from one game to the next. How quickly does it change? And it's like, so what are we even going to see in game number 3? There's no real way to know. But for now, I believe the panel is ready, or we go to a commercial break. Either way, we are going to pass it off from us.